Um, it is my proud privilege and honor to introduce Jeff Cosby, our speaker for today. Um, uh, I've had the opportunity to briefly get to know him, have a conversation. Um, you know, there are a lot of things that are visibly known about Jeff in the coaching and the coach training world. He's the founder of the Avalon Group, also known as TAG. And they do amazing work both in personal and leadership mastery, as well as coaching and coach training. What I found very enlightening when speaking with Jeff is that Jeff has been meditating for about 50 years now, close to 50 years. And I'm a keen meditator myself. So I'm just very excited to share that space with you, Jeff. The topic for today, which is really the wisdom of the heart and is focused on breath work, is exciting for ACTO, for all of us. So I'm very grateful that all of us are joining into a dialogue under the leadership of Jeff. And I believe from a coach training and coaching perspective, this is very important because this allows for us to evolve our work beyond language, to bring in the soma, the body, the energy, and truly connect with source, if I may say so. So, so delighted to have you here, Jeff. So delighted for this community that we are. This call is, of course, being recorded. And without further ado, I want to step out of the way and present Jeff to all of us. Jeff, welcome.
Okay.
So joyful to have you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, and I appreciate the invitation. I guess I want to start with how much I value and honor and respect the work that all of you do. Because for me, coaching has been kind of a life journey for me. So I see enormous value in the work that you do in developing coaches and in the whole coaching field. I started, I guess I would say I started in what we used to call the human potential movement back in the early 70s. So I began in the 1973, and I've been in this work ever since. So it was one of those things that found me, and I felt called to this work, and I've been doing it ever since. And I've traveled quite extensively around the world and have facilitated hundreds of thousands of people in transformational kinds of training, coaching, and so it really is an honor for me to be here with you, and I look forward to being able to have this be, as much as we can, more of a dialogue, in the sense of I will share certain things, but I'd really love to speak to whatever your concerns are and whatever your interests are, because my interest in this work is very broad, and from meditation to breath work to coaching to leadership development, leadership training. I'm actually doing something very unusual right now. I'm spending a lot of time in New York City working with a public defense firm let's see, there's 150 lawyers, and who are in very high stress environments dealing with public defense work. And so I'm there as an internal coach and consultant, and so it's been very unusual, but I'm finding a lot of desire that people have to bring balance into their life. And one of the things I mentioned when Vikram and I talked earlier, you mentioned about anxiety. And I think this is one of the things that we're all dealing with in life now. It seems like life has really brought a heightened state of anxiety to people. And for a lot of different reasons, and I don't really need to go into them, but we all, I think we've probably seen with our clients as we've coached them and as we're developing coaches, they're needing to deal with people that are in what I call a heightened state of anxiety. And I'll talk a little bit about the nervous system, the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system, and how people's sympathetic nervous system has been highly activated and continues to be that way. I don't know how much you know about that in itself, but I'll just briefly say, the reason I do breath work is because it's the one way that we can actually bring our nervous system more into balance. And one of the things that is going on is that because of the society being the way it is, because of all the things, whether it's war, whether it's, anxiety about the economy, whether it's anxiety about political, polarization, whether it's whatever it is, people are triggered. And, I fly a lot and I just see how people are on planes anymore, which is you have to be kind of aware of what's going on around you, because people get very triggered very quickly and react. And so if we look at that, I would say that the sympathetic nervous system is kind of dominant right now. So when we have two basic nervous systems that are there. The sympathetic nervous system is our fight or flight response. It's the stress response. And so when that is triggered, we are in a fight or flight mode or freeze. Some people freeze, some people fight, some people run away, not just physically, but, mentally and all that. And so that response, which is inherent in all of us, it's been there from the time we've been in existence as human beings, but it was only designed to be there engaged for 30 minutes or so, and then we are kind of come back into balance. Well, I think people are spending a lot of their life in this heightened state. And therefore, that all kinds of things happen when we are in that state. And that is, cortisol is released. We've got, our blood pressure goes up, our heart rate goes up, so there's blood comes away from our physical extremities and kind of in a protection mode. And the problem is that it will end up creating a lot of stress and ultimately disease. People get sick. Actually, medical doctors tell us now that a lot of illnesses, a major cause of illnesses, is stress related. And so how can we impact that? Now, and then also the parasympathetic nervous system is where our heart rate goes down, our blood pressure goes down, so it's bringing into balance. If you think of those two systems as like like in our house, what do you call it? Can't even think. Thermostat. Okay. The thermostat is kind of bringing into balance. And that's what this does. Now, the one thing that I found is that what affects our nervous system is one thing is our breathing. And it's actually, if you think of our breathing is the only function in our body that that functions both consciously and unconsciously. So we don't have to think about it. We're all of us right now, we're not thinking about breathing, but we're all breathing. But we also can consciously breathe. And it's through this conscious form of breathing that we can have an impact on all the other systems in our body, our mental state, our emotional state, how our body functions. So that's why I've kind of moved in my career to dealing a lot more with breath work and coaching using breath work, because and I'll get into that in a minute, but it's the opportunity that we have to affect real change in us. And in a way, it's what I call, it helps us bypass the mind. So a lot of times what we find when we're working with people is they're kind of stuck in a certain way of thinking, and how can we, support them in connecting to something much deeper, more profound, which is what I call more at a soul level, more at a spiritual level, more at a higher state of consciousness. How can we bring that? And that's what I find breath work does. So wisdom of the heart, and I use that terminology because, as I think I said in the preview of this, is that the heart actually sends more information to the mind, to the brain, than the brain does to the heart. So the heart actually is kind of the center, and we talk a lot about the heart center of our being. And so how do we bring this about? And why is this important in coaching? So I want to answer some of those kinds of questions. And I want to also step back a little bit and talk about my journey in this work. So when I started, I would say that the focus was on what most people think of as how do you create things in your life, and most people would say, well, you really get in touch with what you want, and then you create a plan, and then you use your power, your willpower, your commitment, and you achieve it, you create it. And that's very common. It's actually the book that was very center of all the human potential movement a long time ago was Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, and that was written, I think it was 1937, if I remember correctly, but and so that's a long time ago. And basically that is the foundation of a lot of this, personal growth, human potential movement. The problem with, so I want to back up a little bit. I don't want to say problem so much, but because I find that is a very useful way of going about things to create things, but it also has its limitations. And the limitation is it can create incredible amounts of stress because it focuses on two things. It focuses on what I would call having an external end result that we're focused on, and willpower. And those two things, can be the source of a lot of stress. And as we know, stress actually causes a lot of fundamental problems in our life. So, so as I did my work in the first 20 years, 30 years, I really operated more from that mindset. I really did. I mean, it was when I work with people, it's like, what do you want? what are you committed to, and what are the actions you're going to take, and go out, make it happen, and motivate people and inspire people. And it was great, and a lot of people got a lot of good things out of that. And but as I've continued to do this work, I'm finding that there's also the unintended consequences of that, or the unintended side effects, which is people spend a lot more time kind of ego-centered, focus on what I want, and that it can be incongruent with what is really true. How can you support people to get to a centered state, and to connect with what is aligned with their heart? What is it that they truly are here to manifest and create in life? And so I saw a lot of people that were very stressed, had created a lot of things in their life, but still weren't happy, and still weren't fulfilled, and still didn't experience joy. They achieved things, but they're not in a state of balance and harmony and a sense of fulfillment and joy, which is what I was kind of looking for, what I think is valuable. So, so I began to explore, and I was actually turning 60 years old. And so I'm 71 now. I was turning 60, and I have achieved quite a bit by most standards. I've had companies in 4 different countries around the world, in Japan and Hong Kong, in Argentina and the Netherlands, and quite successful. And so I felt good about that, but it's like there's still something missing. And so I actually reached out to people that I knew, and I said, I need to go to another level of awareness, consciousness, whatever, and I need some support. And so I got some support. And one of the things that I learned for the first time, even though I had spent by this time 40 years, almost 40 years meditating, doing different kinds of things. And I learned a process of breathing that was incredibly transformative for me. And so I began to explore the breath work, and I dove into that, and I then brought that into all the coaching that I do, and how can we bring this into coaching. And so that's what's evolved in the last 11 years of my life. I've spent doing that. And all around the world, I've been doing it. And the wisdom of the heart is that experience. So what I talk about in terms of wisdom of the heart is it's about the art of transcendence through the mastery of the breath. So by mastering our breath, we can transcend the state that we're in right now, whatever that is, and reach another state of awareness and consciousness. So that's the work that I'm doing now. And I find that people are much more open to this kind of approach. I would call the work I used to do as being much more provocative. It's like we would do trainings, and these trainings, very large group trainings, and it would provoke a lot of things. We would do exercises that would bring out a lot of different, states of emotional states, mental states, all of that. And really very profound, but it was provocative. It required me as a facilitator to do things. with breath work, I see it much more as an evocative approach, is to call forth, is to, I'm not there. I mean, I'm there, but I'm there more as, how do you hold space for people to do the transformational work? And that my job as a coach then is being in a state of consciousness and a state of awareness that I can hold space for someone as they do the breath work. And then from that, I can work with them as to what was evoked. What did they see? What did they become aware of? And so that's what wisdom of the heart is about. So, so that's a little bit of kind of what I'm doing and what this is about. I want to just open this up more for a dialogue as well. If there's things that you're thinking or things that you would like to ask, feel free to ask at any time here. I would love to kind of hear more about what you're doing and how I can speak to that. So maybe there's some questions you have or something that you would like to share that would give me a greater sense of where you are and what you're looking for. So if you would like, feel free to share at any time. You can raise your hand or, do the thing on Zoom. Anybody?
This is Moti Kopes. Hello.
Hello.
I am just wondering, are we going to have a sample
Yes.
of how you do that? Because after that, there will be much more questions
Okay.
coming up.
All right.
Then,
Okay.
and just, thank you for that.
Yeah. So I would like to do a couple of things. The breath work that we do in Wisdom of the Heart is a very involved breath work. So we won't be able to do that because it's an hour long and it involves laying down and having things set up so that you can do it. So, but I want to give you a sampling of the kind of breathing that we would do. And we will do it for like about 10 minutes, so that, because it is a little different than most kinds of, breath work. I mean, how many people have done some kind of breath work? I mean, we do it in yoga and all of that, but so can you share with me some of the breath work that you've done so that I have a sense?
It's Brendalyn. Hi,
Yes.
Jeff. Thanks for this.
Hi.
I I was working with a practitioner who was working on kind of unanswerable questions that we had held subconsciously. So we had to each bring a doubt that we had or something like that. And definitely there was a mood of the room, a lot of low lights. And yeah, I think that was my first time doing that. And it was transcendent. I hear you using that word, and it really was like unexpected, but even more so than an experience, but more of an altering. So yeah, that was, and I think for me, I really saw that I went from like a doubt to like a joy. There was an even an arc of, realization in that as well. So yeah, that was my experience.
Do you, can you describe the kind of breathing that you did? Was there a certain kind of breathing?
Yeah, if I can just recall, I remember definitely being guided, and our hands were in different positions too, so we can feel the breath, but throat, chest, gut, and nasal breathing as well. And then just a lot of also releasing. So not just the inhales, but the exhales as well. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Someone else, what kind of breath work have you done? Anybody?
I like,
Hi.
there's a, oh, sorry,
Who is that?
this is DJ.
We have
Okay.
both DJ and Garima wanting to share, so we could hear from both actually.
Okay,
DJ, why don't you go ahead and then we'll invite Garima in.
All
okay,
right. You know, when you pray, when you chant, when you do verses, psalms, all that stuff, there's a certain rhythm to that of the in and the out breath.
Mm.
And so, you know, almost every religion all over the world in history has been doing this, and that's why it works so well, why it calms people's minds, right, where they can go into
Yeah.
the heart and experience, if you like, God,
Yeah.
or, you know, divinity in themselves and others, etc., etc. So,
okay, all right, great, absolutely, absolutely. Who else was wanting to share?
Garima? Yeah.
Garima?
So I'm trained as a yoga therapist. As part of that, I think my own practice and teaching others, integrating that with coaching, various forms of pranayama breath work, which is working with different, different aspects of the breathing, clavicular, abdominal, chest, or left nostril versus right nostril,
Mhm.
or cooling versus heating. There's just many dimensions to it. So that's one kind of breath work. The other that's been very interesting for me to learn is through somatic psychology and some of my training in that. Also just seeing, some of the, like Brendolyn was talking about, just some of the exhales and having, the hands and the touch coming in along with the breath work, how that can facilitate grounding without really trying to alter the way we're breathing.
Right.
And that's been the other experience. And finally, I think the one that I practice the most personally is just everyday awareness. As I'm here, can I be aware of my breath? And I feel like that just grounds me at a very different level in terms of bringing me into the present in the day-to-day as well.
Yeah, yeah, great, very good, very good. Okay, so so this kind of, so there's two kinds of breath work that I want to talk about. This one is going to be, it's going to be 10 minutes. So I'm going to ask you to do this for 10 minutes. You can do it sitting up. So normally when I do this breath work, we do this lying down, and the whole process takes about an hour. So, so we're going to start with the breathing, and the thing we do in this breath that's a little different is most breath work, and what I would say most breath work that I would want you to do long term is we breathe in through our nose. Okay, but this breath work, we're going to breathe in and out through our mouth. So it's a little different, and it's not something that you do. I don't do this all the time, but it's something that is what I call transcendent breath work. So the intention of the breath work is to bring about a more transcendent state. And so the breathing is going to be in and out through the mouth. Now, so I'm going to try to, kind of demonstrate a little bit. So first of all, when we do this, you want to open your mouth so that it's relaxed. So it's not, you're not kind of tight or whatever, but you do have your mouth open, about like this. Okay, and then you're breathing in, and when you breathe in, so you can start this by putting your right hand on your abdomen, kind of your lower belly. And when you breathe in, I want you to breathe into that. So it's a deep diaphragmatic breathing. So we're breathing into our belly first. So you'll know you're breathing into your belly if your belly comes out. So it's like, you want to think of in your belly, there's a balloon. And when I breathe in, I'm filling the balloon. So it's like, I don't know if you could hear that or not. So it's breathing in. So you breathe into the belly will go out, and then you kind of fill up the chest. So belly first, and then chest, and then breathe out. some people, when you start to do this, so the reason we do this is because most people breathe in a very shallow way. They breathe basically into their throat, into their upper chest, and that's it. And, so I got to give you a little bit of background on this so that you got to understand it fully, which is the purpose of our breathing is that we want to oxygenate the cells in our body. We want to bring oxygen into the cells, into the blood. And when we oxygenate the cells open. And so when the cells open, you're then also, when you breathe out, you're releasing carbon dioxide and you're releasing toxins that we have in our body. So the body, we have stored lots of toxins. So toxins are things that we bring in through what we eat, what we drink, the environment. Is also the emotional toxins, when we've had fear and hurts and upsets and reactions. A lot of times when we have those experiences, we tighten. And when we tighten, we hold our breath. And in a way, we lock in those experiences in our body. So the breath work functions as a way of breathing in oxygen, oxygenating the cells of our body, opening the cells, and it releases the toxins, because oxygen is a higher energy form than the toxins are. So it releases the toxins. And so you will, we're going to do it for 10 minutes. You may even begin to feel a lot of tingling in your body as you do this, okay? You may begin to feel your face kind of tingling, your hands, that may happen. It may not. So don't have any expectation here. There's no right way of doing it. Well, I'll correct myself. There is a kind of right way, meaning that I do want you to breathe into the belly. So given that most of us tend to breathe into our chest, you really want to focus in the beginning here that you're getting the breath into the belly. And you'll know that. So I don't know if I can show it. So I'm gonna, here. So when I breathe into the belly, all right, so you see that my belly will come out when I breathe into it like that. So, you want to do that. You want to have that experience. So there's three things that I want you to focus on in this breath. One is that we keep the mouth open, and it's open all the time. So it doesn't open and close. So you're not, when you breathe out, you're not blowing. You're not like, you don't blow. It's like fogging a mirror when you breathe out. If you want to fog a mirror, you just open your mouth and you go. And so the breathing out is all coming from the diaphragm, pulling it in, pulling the air in, and then letting the air out. So it's. All right. So it's open mouth. It's breathing into the diaphragm, and as you get more experience at this, you breathe into the diaphragm, and then you can fill up the chest. And then you just let it out. So the inhale will feel longer than the exhale. You really want to focus on pulling as much oxygen in as possible. What we're trying to do here is we want to really oxygenate our body, just every cell of our body. So, and you can kind of tell that that's happening by, the sensations that you will start to get. In the beginning, your mouth may get very dry, and that's okay. It'll go away. but you just want to keep doing the breath. You may feel tingling in the body. You may feel, and I don't know, it's even possible, even in 10 minutes, that you may have some emotional reaction. You may feel, you may have tears. That happens. Or you may laugh. You may, there's no right thing that happens. Whatever happens is fine. But you just keep pulling the breath in and out. The other thing is the breath should be continuous, meaning that you do not stop at the inhale or exhale. So there's no pausing. You don't breathe in and so there's no pausing. Once you breathe in, then you breathe out. Once you breathe out, then you breathe in. So think of it like a circle. You can kind of feel a rhythm of that. Breathe in and out. Some people feel like waves, coming up on shores, kind of the breathing in and out. Whatever sensation you have, is fine. So there's, just repeat the three things: open mouth, deep diaphragmatic breathing, and focus on the in-breath, and then let go of the exhale. And then the last thing is that it's a continuous breath. Okay? So we're going to do this for about 10 minutes. I'm going to play a little music in the background, so that will be there. And if you can be on camera, I would appreciate it, because I can help. Sometimes I might say something. I might say, keep your mouth open a little more, open a little more, or whatever. Don't worry, I've seen it all. So I know it's not the prettiest sight that you're sitting there with your mouth open and all of that, but it's okay. I'll do it along with you as well. And, some of the time I may say something other times, but anybody have any question about it before we do it? Okay, clear?
Yes, I wanted to know, Jeff, that
yeah.
When we're inhaling, you recommended the belly first and then the chest. Is
Yes.
there a sequence while exhaling?
Exhaling, it will, no, not so much. I think it will, we don't focus so much on the exhale, because the important part of this is the inhale, bringing the oxygen in, and the reason why for me is that when people start focusing on exhale, they can tend to hyperventilate. The focus is, breathing out, and we don't want that. That's not what this is about. So focus on that, and then breathing out. I really haven't focused on where it's the sequence, but it's more just the inhale, belly first, bring up, and then let go. Keep your mouth open. Don't force it out, or not blowing or anything like that. Okay. All right. Let me see. I just get some music here. So we'll have. Okay. Can you hear that? Okay. All right. So and it's best, I always do it with my eyes closed. I would recommend that. When we do it, normally we do it for an hour. We have people have a blindfold on, so that we want you to not have any kind of visual. We just want you to go into your own experience. So if you would now just take a deep breath, open your mouth, deep breath in and out. In and out. Now everybody can open your mouth a little more. mouth open. Breathe into the belly, feel the belly go out. Deep breath in and out. Very good. That's it. Just keep pulling the breath. I breathe in and let go. My in-breath is a metaphor for my capacity to bring into my life abundance, joy, love. Breathe in and out. As I breathe in, feel the oxygen going to every cell of my body. Breathe in and out. In and out. Beautiful. Just keep pulling the breath in. Expand my capacity to bring into my life. Breathe in. Bring in as much oxygen as you can. Breathe in and out. In and out. Keep pulling the breath. Really pull the breath in. That's it. Feel your belly go out when you pull the breath into the belly. In and out. In and out. In and out. Pulling the breath. Keep the mouth open. If it gets dry, it's okay. Just swallow and then just keep opening the mouth, breathing. Let it go. Now I want you just to have the pace of your breath be a little faster than normal. Whatever you've been doing, whatever feels normal, comfortable, breathe just a little faster than that. Deep breath in and then let go. Keep the mouth open. You guys are doing great. Just keep it open. Keep pulling the breath. No, it's not normal to keep your mouth open. You can bring more oxygen in through your mouth than you can through your nose. So we're wanting to bring in as much oxygen as we can. Beautiful. Keep pulling the breath. Breathe in. I open myself to the abundance of life, love, the joy. Feel the oxygen going to every cell of my body. You can feel the tingling in my hands or face as I keep breathing, keep pulling the breath in. Pulling the breath. Intensify that breath. Deeper. Deeper. Feel your whole body opening to the breath, the life force in your body. Feel this life force energy moving, opening. Let go. Breathe in, breathe out is our capacity to express, to let go, to be free. In and out. Breath, prana, the chi, the life force energy. Feel it moving in your body. Feel it breathe into the belly, come up into the chest and let go. Now for just another minute or two, just intensify the breath. Breathe in a little faster. Deep breath in. Focus on the in-breath. Then breathe out. Keep going. Keep breathing. Pulling the breath. Breathe. Intensify the breath. to allow the breath to find a normal pace, find a comfortable pace. Just with your eyes closed, just allow the breath to find a pace that just feels comfortable. You can now begin to close your mouth and breathe in through your nose and out. And breathe out through the mouth or through the nose. Just notice the experience you have. Notice what you feel in your body. And when you feel kind of present, you feel like you're in this moment, in this time, you can just, at your own pace, open your eyes whenever you're ready. Okay. So that's, well, that was actually 15 minutes. So, just anything, let's take a little sharing of what you experienced, whatever went on for you. What was that like? Yes, Raphael?
So I actually couldn't be on camera because I took the chair out of the way and I lay on the floor even before you started the exercise.
Oh, okay.
So several things happened to me. I did get to feel the tingling sensation, particularly as we accelerated the pace.
Mhm.
Some questions came to me, part of the exercise and part of clients that I have upcoming, which are within the scientific community. So, for example, when you said we exhale toxins, I wonder what those are beyond carbon dioxide.
Mhm.
And I also found my tongue not being able to relax and keep pushing against either my teeth or my lips. So I wonder what that means. And then I think you said it during the exercise, the difference between breathing through your nose and breathing through your mouth, which I understood was you can inhale more oxygen through your mouth.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's my experience and my questions combined and all.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Let's take, so what would be the question that you have most first? Let's take it in the sharing, and then what would be your key question?
Well, one quick question that I had, which is, what toxins do we exhale when we
Okay.
breathe this way?
Yeah. So first of all, I don't actually know
Okay.
what it would be for you, you know. So toxins, if you think of toxins as they can be things that we, as we know, there's basically 3 ways that we eliminate toxins from our body. One is going to the bathroom. That's one way, that's what we're doing. We're eliminating toxins when we do that, physically going to the bathroom. The other way we release toxins is through sweat. So, and that's why it's great if every day we can work up a sweat. We can do something where, and that way it releases that. The main way that we release toxins is though through our breath. 70% of all the toxins in our body are released through our breath. So if we're not breathing deeply, and if we're not doing a deep breath, then we're actually holding on to toxins. Now, toxins, I see as toxins as also emotions. So emotional holding. So there's three, didn't go with, there's a lot of things that I'm kind of jumping over because we don't have time, but there's three basic things in the breath work. One, first of all, it's the purpose of doing this kind of breathing is to open up the pathway and to become aware of our breathing patterns. So as I was saying, a lot of people breathe just in a shallow way. So breathing, a deep diaphragmatic breathing, is to open up a clear pathway for the life force energy to move. So people sometimes find that there's kind of a block between the chest and the lower belly, that they either breathe into the belly and they can't pull up. Anybody have that experience? You can kind of breathe into the belly, but you felt like you couldn't bring it up into the chest. Sometimes people have that. Sometimes people feel like they can't get it into the belly. So one thing that happens is that we're opening the pathway for the breathing to happen. The second thing that happens when we breathe like this is that we begin to release unexpressed emotions and beliefs and patterns that we've held on to. So as you know, a lot of times when we have trauma in life, the experience of that trauma, we tend to hold our breath in those moments. If you think of the holding of the breath, it's like we're locking in that emotion in the cells in our body. When you begin to do this kind of breathing, it opens the cells. And so those emotions that have been held inside start to be released. If we would do this for an hour, you may find yourself crying, and you may not even know what you're crying about. It's just a release of energy that's being held. So I look at toxins both as on a physical level, whatever environment you're in, whatever you're eating, whatever, that's toxins. But I also look at toxins as being negative emotions or thought patterns that are toxic to us, and that gets released as well. Okay, does that answer that
Yes,
for you?
I put the
Jeff?
other question on the chat.
Okay,
Jeff?
okay, yes.
There's a question that came up for me. When I do my own breathing practice, there's a rhythm that I like to have. And so I already deep breathe, but it was the exhaling that was hard for me to get a rhythm.
Yeah.
So I noticed the question that came up for me is, do I blow it all out one shot? Do I blow it in a time sequence? So I tried both. And when I breathed out deeply, one big exhale, I started to feel tingle on the bottom of my mouth, very strongly.
Yeah.
On the bottom of my mouth.
Yeah.
And so the question that came up me, is the sequence customized of exhaling different for each person, or is there a principle of how one should exhale?
I think there's more of a principle, but what I find is usually when I do this, if I can, doing a lot of it on Zoom now, but I'm doing a retreat in a couple of weeks that we're going to do it in person. So then we work with people in person, and everybody has a different pattern. This is not one size fits all. So what I'm looking for is are you getting the breath into the belly? Are you getting it there? And then the exhale, the principle is to kind of just let it go and not to control it. Okay. If you think of the metaphor of the exhale is letting go, is surrender, is, just to release. And so if we're controlling it, that tends to be a pattern that we have in our life, that we're controlling what we express. We're holding on to what we express, and instead of just let go. So the principle, I think, is more about just let go. Okay.
Yeah. And my mouth
Right.
did get dry. My mouth did get
Yeah.
dry, but now it's not, interestingly enough.
Well, when we do this for an hour, there's 3 phases in it. The first, we're just doing the first 15 or 20 minutes, is you're beginning to just bring in all this oxygen, and it's starting to open the cells. And then you reach this state we call activation. So when you activate, a lot of, this feeling that you have, the tingling that you have, some of you may have been starting to activate. I didn't mean to go 15 minutes actually, but, because usually activation starts by, sometime after 10, 15 minutes. So during activation, then there's a lot of you would kind of go on a journey, and I don't know what that journey would be for you. You will go on, and for the next, let's say 20 to 30 minutes, your breath will take on a life of its own. So I'm facilitating the beginning so that you really are pulling the breath. But after about 15 minutes, you will start to breathe in some pattern, whatever that is. And you will kind of go on some journey. You may have images. You may get, there may be things from your past memories may come up. You may have emotions that come up, whether it's crying or laughing, that may happen. Sometimes you don't know the difference. You're there and it feels like you're crying, but you're also laughing, and it's a very odd experience, but it's pretty cool actually when you have it. So there's that 30 minutes, and then there's what we call the last 15, 20 minutes is integration, where whatever went on in there, we bring you back to a kind of normal breathing level, and then there's an assimilation of what opened up, and you may get a new awareness about something. You may see something from a whole different perspective at this time. We also, when we start this, we ask people to have, an intention. I didn't do that this time because we weren't going to go into it all, but it's like they may have an intention that they want to open up to something in their life there, or they have a question that they're been pondering, and so you start with that intention and then just do the breath. We talk about that the breath is, you got to trust the breath. It's going to lead you, because that's your life force. That's your spirit. It's going to lead you to what you need to do. So it's going to guide you to let go of something, or open up to something, or see something in a new way. So it's a long
Thank you.
response, but
No, thank you.
yeah, so that's great. Thank you. Yes, go ahead.
What does it mean? I fell asleep. I tried so hard to stay awake. I just,
Yeah.
it was after 10 minutes.
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's not a problem. Sometimes people fall asleep. Sometimes, so number one, it probably means you need some rest. So if you do that, and that's okay. Usually as we start to do this, when I do deep breath work with people, and if I do it in person, I would tend to wake you. I would just tend to nudge you and then just say, keep pulling the breath. And it's like in meditation. A lot of time when people start to meditate, they tend to fall asleep, almost always in the beginning of that. And so it's something that you've got to train yourself on to get the value of the breath. But sometimes it's what people need. And so, it's okay. If it happened all the time, then I think that's an issue. But that we want to explore. Maybe there's something, this is where we can get into the coaching of, maybe there's something you don't want to look at, something that you're avoiding, all that kind of stuff. But the fact that you fell asleep in the first 10 minutes, I don't know, are you getting enough sleep? No. Okay. All right. Well,
Thank
all
you.
right. Very good. All right. Thank you. Somebody else? Other questions or sharing anything that happened for you, or if nothing happened, that's okay. You can share that too. Yes, Nancy.
So I'm a student of pranayama, so I love the breath work. And I love that even in this short little session that I started feeling real activation in my spine. It was really beautiful. So thank you.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing when you really, I mean, I was amazed because I thought I'd done a lot of work, from 73 to, 11 years ago. When was that? That's like, 2010, something like that is when I started with the breath work. I thought I'd done a lot of practice, meditation and breathing exercise and all that. And then when I did this kind of breath work, it was just something totally different. I'll just share one experience. My first experience of this was I had a memory that came to me, and I was like 2 years old, and I'm standing in a crib in a hospital, and I can see my parents, and they're having a conversation with the doctor, and I'm crying. So I have this image, and I go, I don't know anything about this. I thought I just kind of made it up. Well, my mother is still alive. She's 91 now, 92. And so I called her and I said, did something happen when I was 2 years old? And she goes, well, yeah. And she goes, why are you asking? I said, well, I saw myself in the hospital. And she goes, oh, you can remember that. She goes, you're only 2 years old. And I go, well, I was standing up in a crib and I saw you and Dad outside talking. And she goes, you remember that? She goes, we were so upset they wouldn't let us in to see you, and you were crying, they wouldn't let us. And I had drank something and I was rushed to the hospital and having to pump my stomach and all of that. And so I had that memory, but the thing about the memory was I just felt in the breath work, I felt this choking. I felt like I was choking, and the guy that was guiding me, just said, keep breathing, keep pulling the breath. And I went through this choking, and then, tears kind of flowed, and afterwards, this sense of, like I could really breathe, like I could, because a lot was blocked, and I felt this block. And so it was a really powerful experience. That was my first breath work. So I go, okay, I'm hooked. This is it. So yeah. So the thing that will happen is that's why I use it in coaching as well. When I have quite a few coaching clients, especially now with the work I'm doing, I don't use it in the beginning. I usually have 5 or 6 coaching sessions with somebody first to really get to know where they are, and then I ask them if they're open to a different experience and to do the breath work. And then I facilitate a breath work with them. And I usually have like a 2-hour session where we do the breathing, then afterwards the sharing about what opened up, what did that mean to them, So it's a powerful tool to integrate it with coaching. So that's, okay. Thank you, Nancy. Yes, Sharon?
Thanks for sharing that example, because I think it helped put it in even more context for me. I took a course. I've been interested in trauma and how we can shift it with coaching, and how some of coaching that we do doesn't shift it. And so that was just a beautiful example of a traumatic experience that shifted with this. And this summer, I took a week-long course with Bessel van der Kolk, the author of The Body Keeps the Score. And he said that trauma doesn't really shift with talking alone. And
Right.
so this was just a beautiful example of how bringing the body into our coaching, the breath and the body can help shift a traumatic
Absolutely.
experience.
I mean, I'm totally with that. I mean, I used to think of myself as pretty effective as a coach, but when I was working with people that had, most people have had trauma of some sort in their life. Some have, ignored it and denied it, but some are very well aware of it, and talking about it and trying to give them a different perspective and all the different ways we can coach, I found a lot of times was inadequate to really for them to heal. And one of the things I would talk about with breath work is that this kind of breath work is a self-healing modality. It's intended for you to go through a healing, either healing at a physical level. People will talk about, a lot of people I've worked with that have had things like asthma and anxieties and things like that, have really healed a lot of that through the breath work. I'm amazed at the things they will share, but especially with traumas. And that's why I talk about with the breath work, it may not be a very accurate way of describing it, but it's how I describe it. In a way, it bypasses the mind. The mind is the thing that people get locked up in. And so with trauma, they tend to be re-traumatizing themselves with their mind because of how they think about it. And so it just perpetuates it. And so if you can do something that kind of goes beyond that, doesn't engage the mind, but kind of goes to the release and the letting go, as I would talk about it, is that people come away from doing the breath work, they come away feeling a little lighter, a little freer, a little more open each time. And so a lot of times they've let go of things. People will give me examples of, I used to react to this thing with my mother all the time, whenever she would, just how she talked, her voice and what she said would just trigger me. And after doing the breath work and doing that, they found, gosh, I had a conversation with my mother the other day and I realized that I wasn't being triggered. So it's a lot of times trauma can get released through the breath work. That's and not having to talk about it all. So great. Thank you, Sharon. Anyone else want to share anything? Okay. There's one other thing. We got just about 10 minutes. So there's one other thing that that I want to share with you, a breath work I do that is very simple. But it's also something I do before any coaching. So before I ever do a coaching with somebody, I do this breath work for 5 minutes. And the reason is, as I was talking to someone about this, is that, context to me is everything. So context is where we come from. It's the space that we're coming from, we're operating from. And before I do a coaching, I want to make sure that I'm in a very grounded, open, spacious place, and that I'm kind of freed up. So I really, with all the work I do with coaches and training coaches, I encourage them to have some practice before they go into a coaching. If you just walk into the coaching from wherever you are, you can be bringing into that space kind of an energy that is not productive. So it's up to us to be responsible for what is the space, what is the energy that I'm creating for my coaching session. So I do. It's very common. So you may do it. It's called coherent breathing. I don't know if anybody hear of coherent breathing. Okay, yeah. So coherent breathing is, if you think about the mind and the heart being in coherence. So being creating think of a tuning fork, a vibration, being in a vibration and energy where there's alignment between the heart and the head. So, and coherent breathing is what sometimes called heart-centered breathing. So it's about wisdom of the heart, as I call it, but heart-centered breathing. And so the way to do this is that basically they know through scientific research, they know that when we're in a coherent state, when we're most aligned, we will breathe at about 5 to 6 breaths a minute. 5.5 actually, but can't be that accurate, but basically 5 to 6 breaths in a minute. So it's like, so it's what we do is a 6-second in breath and a 6-second out breath. All right. Now, so in doing this breath, and we're just going to do it for a couple minutes so that you get a sense of it. It may take you a little longer to get there, but so we're not going to be able to do it fully, but what I'd like for you to, you can take this away and practice it if you don't already practice it. How to get to that state, because most of us will not be able to sustain a 6-second in breath and a 6-second out breath right off, right now. So, because it's about bringing our body and mind into coherence. So that's going to require kind of moving into it. So to move into it, the way to do it is that you focus first on the out breath. So, you'll breathe in, you breathe in through your nose. I usually breathe in through my nose, and sometimes I breathe out through my mouth, or I breathe out through my nose, but it's more of a nasal breathing. But you focus on trying to get to a 6-second out breath. So, but you don't force it, meaning it's not like an achievement. You're not like, okay, I got 6 seconds. I mean, it was hard, but I got 6 seconds. No, you don't want to fight it. You want to, if you can only breathe and it's comfortable at a 4-second out breath, then do that. And then do that for a couple breaths. And then you try to go to 5 seconds, a count of 5, and then to a count of 6 ultimately. So if you can do that, you start getting to a 6-second out breath in a relaxed way. Whenever you feel tension, just relax and breathe normal, and then try it again. All right. So at no time do you want to try to force it. So once you get to a 6-second out breath, then start to combine that with a 6-second in breath. And it may start, and you may, as you breathe in, you may only be able to breathe into a count of 4 or so. Okay, do 4 and then try to do 6-second out breath. and then try to pick it up so you can do 5, and then ultimately you can get to 6 and 6. And when you do that, you're going to be in a very coherent state, kind of aligned. And ideally, you could be able to do that kind of breathing for like 5 minutes. So whenever I do a coaching, I do this 5-minute coherent breathing, and I can be in that state pretty quickly after I practice with it a lot. So I can do it, and I do that for 5 minutes, and then I am ready to be present with my client. Okay, so let's just try it. You know, you can do it here. We'll just do, we'll do a couple minutes. All right. So I always close my eyes. You don't have to, but I always close my eyes when I do it. So to breathe in through the nose to the count of 6, just to give you a sense. A lot of times we don't know what 6 seconds is really. So I'll count. I mean, I won't count, but I'll say breathe in, and then at 6 seconds, I'll say breathe out. Okay, everybody take a breath in. And now out. Okay, that's one breath. All right. So when you did that, was it hard to do the in breath for 6 seconds? Some people yes, some people no. So to do this, so I just wanted to give you a sense of what 6 seconds is. So a lot of times when we do the counting, we do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's about 3 seconds. So we got to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So focus on the out breath for 6 seconds, and then when you get that, kind of combine it with the in breath. All right. I'm going to let you do it on your own just for a couple minutes to see how it feels. All right. So just close your eyes and just begin. 3, 4, 5, 6. Out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Just continue. Just take 4 more breaths. Okay. Okay, so that, I really love that practice. You didn't fall asleep, did you? All right. Yes. But so I really encourage you, you know, a lot of you have a breath practice, that's great. But this is a simple one that even if this is something I do, I actually have my meditation breathwork practice. I do it every morning. So mine is 21 minutes long. And I do the open mouth breathing for 5 minutes. Then I do the coherent breathing for 5 minutes. And then I do 3 minutes of gratitude. So I just, you know, put my hand over my heart and I just, you know, bring in what I'm grateful for, someone I'm grateful for, just to be heart-centered, you know. And then I do 3 minutes of service. And I do, by service, I mean, I just open myself to think of someone I can be in service to today. So, and somebody will pop into my mind. And so it may be somebody I haven't thought of in a while, or it could be somebody close to me. But then, and then I think of that person. And then after that, I do 1 minute of tapping, you know, where I just tap my heart, where I just, it's like an anchoring of the experience of gratitude. And that ends up being 21 minutes. And then during the day, I will contact that person that I thought of, you know, and just pick up the phone, or I have to see them in person or whatever. And it's amazing that, you know, what comes out of that. You know, I just talked to somebody I hadn't talked to in probably 6 years yesterday, and they came to my mind. I go, oh, so I called them and they said, oh, I'm so glad you called, you know, and I wanted to talk to you about. I go, oh, okay. So all right. So I appreciate the opportunity to be with you. So thank you very much for being so attentive and open. And if there's anything else, I'm happy to answer any other question. I think our time is about up, but you know, but if there's anything else, yes, Sharon. Oh, you're just,
Well, just-
I thought it was a hand up. It's just,
No, clapping.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. All right. Anything else, Vikram?
Oh, thank you
Pratap?
so much. This has been so enlightening and joyful.
Yeah.
And especially in this part of the world where I'm ending my day. So I'm going to end it very beautifully today.
Great.
Thank you so much, Jeff. And I think this is stoking our curiosity as coaches and coach educators to go into this.
Yeah.
So really, really appreciate your time here.
Yes, and I'm happy. Anybody want, if there's anything you want to ask, if there's, you can contact me. If you, Vikram, you want to give them my email address, or I could put it in the chat, I guess.
Yeah,
Maybe.
and I will also ensure that it gets sent to everybody who's registered. Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. It was just lovely.
All right. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. All right. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Jeff. I will be heading off. I have another call.
Yep. All right.
I'm going to give the hosting rights back to you. So if anybody wants to speak with you, they can.
Yep. Okay. All right. Great. All right. Thank you, Nancy. All right.
All right, Jeff.
All right.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.